An estimated of 26,000 tons of food is thrown away from households even before it's cooked. On average, Singaporean households throw away about 52 plates of nasi lemak a year. $342 million worth of food thrown out across the island. Okay, we are live now. So, great. Yay! Hi, everyone. Let me introduce Charlotte. She's a nutritionist by training, a self-taught cook, a food geek, and all-around advocate of sustainable living. Her online channel, The Charlotte Mei, where she shares simple, fuss-free recipes that make cooking more approachable for all. And she's here to talk to us today about how to strengthen our relationship with food and share easy, doable tips that we can incorporate into our kitchens and keep it fuss-free.
This is very, very apt, and I'm so glad to hear that the conversation is growing, the interest is there, and people are willing to learn and to see, how they can actually play their part in reducing the amount of food waste here in Singapore.
Is that something that has helped you in your personal journey with food and, in defining your relationship with food, your personal relationship?
I really thank my parents for drilling it to me as a kid. My interest and my passion in sustainability is one that came very organically and very naturally because of the way I was raised at home. It was actually my dad who taught me the whole supply chain of farm to table. As a kid in Singapore, you don't grow up seeing farms, you don't have conversations with farmers, you don't know the challenges that they go through. So I lived abroad alone as well from the age of 18. I spent 6 years in Europe. The lifestyle there just happens to be a bit more aligned with this whole, living mindfully and sustainably. Package-free stores were a norm back then. This is like 15 years ago, and supermarkets already did away with plastic bags, for example. So that kind of lifestyle was already very ingrained in me. And so it was actually a culture shock when I came back to Singapore. To show you a few other zero waste stuff that I use. Napkins. So I have a bunch of them. I have no tissue paper in my kitchen. I use reusable tea bags. I use them not so much for my tea, but to make stock with. My reusable Ziploc bags. So this is what I freeze my stock in, my soup, my frozen bananas, silicone bowl covers. They come in all sizes. Love these. I don't use cling wrap anymore. I collect food packaging like plain flour and everything. And I reuse these as my bin bags. I don't need plastic bags. Or even like mailer bags when people send me stuff. I keep it. This is where I would say the freezer is your best friend. The freezer is the best place to prolong the shelf life of any food. I keep my bread in there. I put any fruit. A great example is milk. My brother doesn't drink milk, but I love milk. So I always have that in my fridge. So when I know that I'm not drinking it fast enough before it can potentially go bad, I think of a recipe in which I can use it, or maybe I make a huge batch of milk tea. You just have to get creative with it. Okay, so let me show you some tips for prolonging the shelf life of your food. I will take you to my kitchen now. A salad spinner is a bowl with a little drainage thing and a cover. This is a tip to keep salad leaves or any fresh leaves for as long as possible. So all you have to do, once you wash your salad first, and then keep it in the salad spinner, spin it dry, cap it, and then put it in the fridge. Salad leaves 3 weeks.
Really? No browning?
Nothing, and it doesn't get soft. What makes the leaves go bad is condensation when it gets all wet and soggy. There's a gap between the basket, and if there's any condensation, it will just drip below. But if you don't have that, this is another version that I will share with you. I use reusable cloth. I just open it up and I just stuff it into the bag. So it just sits in there. Any water that collects will be soaked up by the cloth. And another few things I can share with you. Herbs. So Western style herbs, I put them in ice cube trays and then I fill it with some oil and I freeze it. I have an ice cube tray with thyme that I bought a lot, the last time for a dish that I didn't get to use up in time. The oil and freezing it keeps it green, it keeps it fresh, the flavor is still there. So whenever I'm cooking a spaghetti bolognese or whatever it is, I just take out a cube of that, pop it into the pan, and it just melts away with the fresh herb in there. So you can do that for leftover wine, to put in stews. You can do that for leftover coffee, for example, leftover tea. I told you, the freezer is your best friend.
So what are some healthy recipes that we can make with leftover foods, as you are a nutritionist?
So many. So a great one is an omelet. Any leftovers, anything can go in an omelet, guys. If you have some roast chicken or if you have some vegetables lying around, you can throw it in an omelet or even a frittata. It's egg that you bake. Or sandwiches, they're always a great way to repurpose leftovers. I know with Asian food, it's a little harder. A lot of the time, I actually eat leftovers as they are. I just heat it up. Fried rice is a perfect way to reuse leftovers. It's about being creative in the kitchen and also managing your expectations. Another good thing, actually, if you like using a rice cooker, I like to just throw everything in, mix it with rice, and then it just comes out like a new dish.
What do you think the main reasons why Singapore wastes so much food?
At the individual level is when we're eating at home, either over buying ingredients and not using them up in time or forgetting about the leftovers, but also when we're dining out. That's where a lot of food goes to waste. We have a very strong buy and throw away culture. And because in Singapore, we're so disconnected from things like agriculture and wildlife, and we don't see the effects of wastage. For example, if you've been to Pasir Panjang Wholesale Center and you've seen the amount of waste that gets thrown out, that's just life-changing. We are just so far removed from the problem. You know, we throw food away and it's just no longer our problem, but it ends up being someone else's problem. And at the end of the day, the planet suffers. With the whole COVID situation and being on circuit breaker, I know a lot of people have taken up cooking. But these are people who have never cooked in their life. Storage habit, knowing what to do with leftovers or raw food, all these things. We're not taught this in school.
I think everyone is excited for phase 2 and we are probably going to be eating out again more and more. How can we save food while we're eating out?
I'll answer your first question. Am I excited? Yes and no. But I'm very happy that we have gotten to this point because yes, we're moving forward. After being conditioned for like X number of months to be scared of people, we're now being forced to get out into the world. I'm not that excited. Let me get used to being in the energy of other people first. But yes, when we eat out, please think about how much you actually need. If you happen to overorder, that's completely fine, but please think about packing the leftovers home. And this is another note. You may end up with just 2 tablespoons of the vegetables and maybe 1 ladle full of the stew. That it's never too little to take away. But what the restaurant tends to do is they would separate all the different dishes. If you are okay with it, please consider telling the restaurant that they can pack it all in the same box so that you don't end up with many boxes. So yes, the thing about taking away means that you have to use a disposable box, unless if you're so awesome to carry your very own Tupperware around. That's great too, but try to minimize the use of these boxes, especially if they're not very much food and all of them can fit into one box. There's so many urban farmers like sprouting out right now. I think City Sprout is one of them, Birchie Veggies. You do find some of them in the supermarket, but a lot of them you need to go personally to their farm, shop locally. You know, it's going to be the next big thing. A lot of local farmers have now joined Red Mart, so you can find our local farmers' produce on Red Mart itself. When you shop locally, not only are you supporting the local economy, but a lot of the time these companies are a bit more aware with sustainability. So their packaging, actually, they put a lot of thought into their packaging. Birchie Veggies, for example, they sell in a resealable Ziploc bag. So you can keep reusing that Ziploc bag. And also it is more nutritious because it is fresher. Absolutely. The wet market is a perfect place to shop package free. Even if it's at the supermarket, prioritize loose fruits and vegetables over packaged ones. And even if you're buying loose ones, you don't necessarily have to take that clear plastic bag that they put there for you. So instead of buying individually packed biscuits, try to buy those that come in a larger pack. We're not avoiding packaging. I'm not saying that, but try to minimize it as much as possible. I don't expect everyone to be at this level of their sustainability journey, but we can all get there, and there are many ways to go around it. Choose, habits that suit your lifestyle. You don't need to feel stressed out. You don't need to feel pressured. You have to truly, truly understand why you're doing it, and that's when it comes naturally. My brother, although we are raised in the same way, I'm just a bit more mindful and aware of these things. For example, if I leave the house, I would take a Tupperware box with me. For him, not so much, although he does eat out a little bit more. But I try not to impose it on him. And nowadays, when he leaves the house to go and take away food, he will leave, walk a few steps, and then come back and say, oh yeah, I forgot my Tupperware. So I love it that I don't have to open my mouth, but naturally it's sinking in because it's become a habit.
Said, like, you don't have to go to like inaccessible places like package free shops. The wet market is a very easy place to start.
The benefit of going to the wet market is that you also support your local market stall holders, help the local economy. And also raise the point, thank you for holding me accountable, that yes, I did talk about composting. My composting journey is highlighted on my Instagram page. You can go check it out or ask me more questions. So composting basically is turning food waste into nature's gold. Vegetable and fruit peel offcuts that end up in the bin, and they add up to the waste that gets transported. So what happens after 4 to 8 weeks is that it breaks down and it becomes fertilizer, and then you can put it on top of your plant. It's basically closing the loop, closing the cycle, and you are helping plants grow better. Yeah, I mean, nature's gold is the best way to describe it, really. I started composting about a week before circuit breaker started. I got a composting bin and I've been on it ever since. It's like my pet. I spend about 10 minutes at the end of the day just putting all my fruit and veg scraps. A lot of my fruit and vegetable peel goes into my bin. I highly recommend composting. It's like the best thing someone can do to reduce the amount of food that goes into incineration plants. So yeah, something worth checking out. The food bank here in Singapore, so they redistribute food to the marginalized communities. They are low on a few items, so do check out their Instagram page to see if you have these items at home in surplus, or maybe you just want to do some good deeds and buy extra groceries to send to them. About buying things like uglier food, I make a weekly purchase from this platform called Treature. They actually redistribute surplus food. They work both with retailers as well as hotels. So the founder of Treature realized that with hotel buffets, there were a lot of food that was going to waste. And so he started this program whereby towards the very end of a hotel buffet, you as a user of Treature can actually go to the hotel, pay $10 for a box, and you can fill it up with whatever food that is remaining from the buffet. So that saves a lot of food waste. And the other arm of it, where they work with retailers and basically things that are either expiring soon but are still edible, like potato chips, for example, or biscuits, buy them at a cheaper price and save that from going to the bin. Other places include ugly food, so you can buy that at a lower price as well, save that from going to the bin. Another one, if you are a heavy meat or seafood eater, 3 Dots. So you can buy a large quantity of meat at a lower price. 3 companies that are doing great work. Why not save money and also do good for the planet?
Do you have any more of those stories to share, love, where like you wanted something and they wouldn't give it to you because of the culture kind of
always
mindset?
And it's always vegetables. And I've shopped at different wet markets, but they always say, no, don't take this one, not nice, take that one. I'm okay buying this. I'd rather buy this because I don't want these fellas to end up in the bin. If it comes from the stall owners themselves, it's just going to trickle down to the consumers. And maybe that's why our parents have this idea of perfect food. And we need to educate everyone at every single point of the supply chain, because a lot of the time the consumers are okay with it. But it's because we're educated, we're conditioned to expect this quality. So
is that we can be okay with living with imperfection. From when you decide, what do I want to buy? You don't have to buy the prettiest looking thing, all the way to the end when you want to replant a plant. You don't have to buy a pot for the plant. You can just reuse a already existing item in your kitchen. What we're trying to drive is that it's okay to live with imperfection, especially in our now perfect culture. Be creative, whether it's thinking about how to rebag your rubbish, or whether it's thinking about how to keep your items, or using reusable tea bags. They're not things that we would generally think about, but it's something like thinking out of the box, and that is something that we do need in order to live sustainably, just to be a little bit outside of our norm and a little bit out of our comfort zone. And it's also important for us to drive for systemic and collective change by our own individual actions. It really just start from us, and as you said, we are the gatekeepers of what goes on our plate and what goes into our kitchen.
We just have to use our voice. If we don't speak up, things are just going to go as per normal, business as usual. And I think 2020 is the year that has taught us that we should use our voice. obviously for positive change.
I hope that we have answered some of your questions. So thank you very much, Charlotte. And thank you everybody for being here. And I will end the live video now. Thank you. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.